Hi everyone, I am Sreekanth. We are discussing programming in C language. The topic is about basics of C programming language. The agenda of this session, we are discussing C tokens. In this session, we try to discuss in detail about various data types in C language with suitable examples. Already we started with the previous sessions about C tokens. We had discussed in detail about keywords, identifiers, variables with the suitable examples. In this session, we try to discuss in detail about data types. What is data type? What are the different data types supported by C language? In the next coming session, we try to discuss remaining C tokens topics like constants, strings, special symbols, and operators. Data types in C language. What is a data type? A data type specifies the type of data that a variable can store, such as integral types, floating point types, character types, string types, enum types, like what type of data we are storing into the main memory. That represents the data types in C language. Like it represents semantics and characteristics storage of data elements, that is data types in C language. It is expressed in the language syntax in form of declarations for memory locations or variables. Data types also determines the type of operations or methods of processing of data elements. The minimal ranges minus 2 to the power of n minus 1 minus 1 to 2 to the power of n minus 1 minus 1. Example like minus 127 to 127 come from the various integer representations allowed by the standards. Like generally it follows 1's complement, sign magnitude, 2's complement, but most platform uses 2's complement, implying a range of the form minus 2 to the power of m minus 1 to 2 to the power of m minus 1 minus 1 with m greater than or equals to n for these implementations. Example like minus 128 to 127, like it represents what scar min and scar max 127 for an 8-bit signed characters. So I explained in detail about bit representations, like what is bit, okay, how to represent a bit like 2 to the power of m minus 1 to 2 to the power of m minus 1 minus 1 in the previous video sessions. So coming to this topic like data types, in the previous video session explained about variables, right? This is a syntax like data type, variable name or identifier equals to variable value. Here this assume it is a memory block. Here a represents name of the variable, allocating a name of the particular memory location. Here a is a variable name, it is allocating name to the particular memory block or memory location. Here 65052 represents what? Address of the memory block. Here 10 represents what? Value. So in this topic we are talking about data type is nothing but what type of value we are storing into the memory, like integral types or character types or floating point types or string types. Like what type of data we are allocating into the main memory represents what? Data type. The type of value, example here I taken int a is equals to 10. Int represents data type. Int is a integral data type. Int is a keyword in C programming. Here a represents what? Name of the variable. 10 represents what? Value of the particular variable. Here 10 represents what? Positive, like unsigned value. Here we can also suppose signed and unsigned both for what? Integral types. Here unsigned represent a variable, it can hold only positive numbers. If I mentioned signed, a variable can hold only what? Negative and positive values both. Signed represents a variable can hold negative and positive values, but unsigned represents a variable, it can hold only positive numbers. The coming to the data type classified, it can classify basically three types, like size specifiers, generally short type and long type. Short is a small type, long means what? High range of the type. Sign specifiers, signed and unsigned. Here unsigned represents a variable, it can hold only positive numbers. Unsigned means, signed means a variable can hold negative numbers and positive numbers. And another type called type qualifiers, applicable for what? Constants, volatile and restrict. So this is a basic data type classification. In C language, data types can be classified or categorized by four different types like primitive or basic data type, derived data types, user defined data type, another called empty data type or valueless. Coming to the basic data type or primitive data type or fundamentals of the C programming data type is called char. Char is a keyword. It represents character data type. Int is a keyword. It represents what? Integral data type. Float is a keyword. Float represents floating point data type in C programming. Double is a keyword. Double represents floating point of data types, but size varies between float and a double. These four, char type, int type, float type, double, these four represents what? Primitive data types or basic data types in C programming. And derived data types like array, function, and pointers. These concepts comes under what? Derived data types. Each topic consists several subtopics, and with suitable examples we'll discuss in the coming sessions about derived data types. And user defined data types like structure, union, enumeration like enum data type, type diff, like we can able to categorize different types of user defined data types. We'll also discuss in detail in the coming sessions about all these topics. And empty data type or valueless. Here void is a keyword. See, generally we use void for what? Functions, right? Void mean function. Void is nothing but empty data type or valueless. It does not return any value to the calling function or main memory. Void is a empty type or valueless. So this is about different data types supported by C programming language. So we are in the basics of C programming language. In these sessions we try to discuss elaborately about these primitive and basic data types. The later coming sessions we try to discuss in detail about derived data types and user defined data types. Okay. See, coming to the sizes and ranges of basic data types in C for a 16-bit computer. See, as we discussed about data type represents what type of value we are storing into the main memory, right? Then once we are storing the value, then how much size it going to be allocated based on the particular type. The different sizes are going to be allocated in the C programming. Assume sizes and ranges of what? Basic data types in C for a 16-bit computer machine. See, in computer the bits are going to be vary. Some computers suppose like 16-bit operating systems, some operating systems like 32-bit operating system, some computer having what? 64-bit operating system. Like based on the C has one major drawback is that based on the bits of particular operating system, the sizes are going to be vary. In 16-bit the sizes, the data type size is going to be different. If it is 32-bit, some data type sizes are going to be vary, and if it is 64-bit, some sizes are going to be vary. See, that is another major drawback in what? C programming language about data type sizes are going to be vary between what? One bit representation to another bit representations like 16-bit, 32-bit, and 16-4-bit representations. So observe here, char is a keyword. It represents character data type. See, in 16-bit computer machine, it allocates 8 bits. 8 bits represents what? 1 byte of memory. In previous video session, I explained in detail about what is bits, what is bytes in the beginning of what? Fundamentals of computer sessions. Coming to the range, it allocates minus 128 to 127. Say also we discussed in detail about what the in the ASCII table, their signed and unsigned like ASCII characters like 0 to 255, unsigned characters like signed represents minus 128 to 127 characters. Next, int is a keyword. It represents integral data types. Size allocates 16 bits in what? 16-bit computer machine. It allocates 2 bytes. 16 bits represents 2 bytes of memory. The size ranges is minus 32,768 to 32,767. So I want to store more than 32,000, then int won't support. Int can support up to 32,767 positive numbers only. If more than that I want to store the value, then we go with a next data type called long type. Okay. Float occupies was 32 bits, means 4 bytes of memory. 8 bits represents 1 byte, like 32-bit means 4 bytes of memory. It size like 1.17 into 10 to the power of minus 38 to 3.4 into 10 to the power of 38. Like generally these float and doubles are measured in the form of what? Exponent. Like sizes in bits, Double represents, double is a keyword. It is also represents floating point of value. Size occupies 64 bits, 8 bytes of memory, like 2.2 into 10 to the power of minus 3082, 1.79 into 10 to the power of 308. Next, wide is a type, data type. Generally it allocates 8 bits, minimum 8 bits. Size occupies 1 bytes of memory. It is valueless. It does not consist any value. It is empty type. Similarly, if you go with the size and ranges of basic data types in C for a 32-bit computer machine, then just observe the character occupies saying 8 bits, 1 byte of memory, range is minus 128 to 127. If you go with the integral type, in the 16-bit computer machine, it allocates 16 bits, means 2 bytes of memory. But coming to 32-bit computers, it allocates 32 bits, means 4 bytes of memory. Size is varied between 16-bit computer machines to what? 32-bit computers, 4 bytes of memory, right? So this is a size. Range is going to be minus 2147483648 to 2147483647. Like float bits represents 32 bits, occupies 4 bytes of memory, same. Double also occupies 64 bits, sizes in bytes 8 bytes of memory, same. Range is also same. Like wide is also same. See, that is the difference between what 16-bit and 32-bit machines. If you go with the sizes in number of bytes on the short type, int type, short int and long int data types in different machines. Observe short int. In the 16-bit machine, it occupies 2 bytes of memory. In 32-bit machines, 2 bytes of memory. 64-bit machines, it's going to allocate like 2 bytes of memory for short type. We can also call short int. Short is a data type. Short is a keyword. Short int or short represents what? Short type of data. It occupies 2 bytes of memory for what? All different bit machines like 16-bit or 32-bit and 64-bit. But coming to the integral type, int is a keyword. Then it occupies 2 bytes of memory in 16-bit machine, 4 bytes of memory in 32-bit machine, 4 bytes of memory in 64-bit machine. Coming to the long type, long int type, the 16-bit machine occupies 4 bytes of memory, 32-bit occupies 4 bytes of memory, 64-bit machines occupies 8 bytes of memory. And similarly, if you go with the size and range of what? Long type. Long is a keyword. If you go with the long int type, size occupies 8 bytes of memory. This is the range, like 922337203368547758082 plus 9223372036854775807. Unsigned long int or unsigned long. It occupies 4 bytes of memory. The range is 0 to 42949679295. And type unsigned long int or unsigned long. It represents 8 bytes. Size range is 0 to plus 18446744073709551615. This much of value we can able to store in the long type. Okay. And coming to the C-89 version, it supports new types that were added in C-89 like wide point, like the star, signed char, unsigned char, unsigned short, unsigned long double. Some new designations for existing types were added in C-89 like signed short for short type, signed int for int, signed long for long. Here remember, unsigned represents what? A variable. It can hold only positive numbers. Signed means what? A variable can hold negative and positive values. Both it going to be hold. See, this is a combination of basic data types and modifiers in C for a 16-bit computer. See, these are all the data types. Must be represent small case. See, char is a data type, represents what? 8 bits, occupies what? 1 byte of memory. 8 bits is nothing but 1 byte of memory. Char is a keyword. This is a range, minus 128 to 127. Default type is what? Signed char. Signed char is also represents 8 bits, 1 byte of memory. Default type is char type. Unsigned char, 8 bits, 1 byte of memory. Range is 0 to 255. The default type is none. Say integral data type, 16 bits of memory, 2 bytes of 16 bits represents 2 bytes of memory. The size range is minus 32,768 to 32,767. It represents what? Default type is signed int. Like signed int, same 2 bytes, The default type is integral type, unsigned int, 2 bytes of memory. Range is what? 0 to 65,535. That much of value we can able to store in unsigned int. Default type is unsigned. If you go with the short int, occupies 16 bits of memory, like 2 bytes. 16 bits represents 2 bytes of memory. Same, minus 32,768 to 32,767. Default type like short, signed short int. Similarly, if you go with the signed short int, it occupies the 2 bytes of memory. The default type is signed short int. Unsigned short int occupies 2 bytes of memory, 0 to 65,535. The default type is what? Unsigned short. If you go with the long int type, it occupies 4 bytes of memory. This is a range. Default type is signed long int. Signed long int occupies 4 bytes of memory. So this is the range. Default type is long int, signed long and long. Unsigned long int, 4 bytes of memory. This is a range. Default type is unsigned long. If you go with the float, double and long double, float occupies 4 bytes of memory, 32 bits representation. So this is the range like 3.4 exponent minus 38 to 3.4 exponent plus 38. The default type is none. Double is occupies 64 bits, represents 8 bytes of memory. 1.7 exponent minus 308 to 1.7 exponents plus 308. This is a range of what? Double. The difference between float and double. Float is a keyword, double is a keyword. Both are used for what? Floating point representation. But float occupies 32 bits, means 4 bytes of memory in a size. But double occupies what? 64 bits. It allocated 64 bits, is nothing but 8 bytes of memory. And long double type, it allocates 80 bits, represents what? 10 bytes. Like each 8 bits represents 1 byte. 10 into 8 represents what? 80 bits. So this is a size 3.4 exponent minus 4932, 1.1 e exponent like plus 4932. The default type is what? None type. So must be remember this table for representing what? Different data types, sizes in bits, sizes in bytes, and what is the range of the particular data type, and what is the default type is represented in the form of what? 16-bit computer machines. And coming to the C99 version, several new types that were added in C99s are like underscore bool. B is a capital. So this is a underscore bool is going to be added in C99 version. Here, bool represents what? Boolean data type. Represents true or false. Available in stdbool.h header file. Long type, unsigned long, float underscore imaginary, float underscore complex, double next underscore, double space underscore imaginary, like double underscore complex, long double space underscore imaginary, long double next underscore complex. See, these are all the several new types that were added in what? C99 version. C99 also allows extended integer types like int types.h header file, std_int.h header file, and boolean types called stdbool.h header file. See, these are all the new types added in what? C99 version. See, also I provided the different data types with some definition explanation and size bits and format specifiers. In C language, if you want to represent particular data type, must be write the format specifiers. Okay, here char is a keyword. It is the smallest addressable unit of the machine that can contain basic character set. It is an integral type. Actual type can be either signed or unsigned. It consists what? Char underscore bits. Character occupies 8 bits. 8 bits represents what? 1 byte of memory. What is the format specifier? Percentile. See how to represent character data types in C programming. Representing a format specifier is percentile. C occupies 1 byte of memory. Coming to the signed characters, similarly same size as char but guaranteed to be signed, capable of containing the at least minus 128 to 127 range. 8 bits, percentile C or percentile HHI for numerical output. And unsigned char, same size as char but guaranteed to be unsigned, contains at least the 0 to 255 range. 1 byte of memory, 8 bits represents 1 byte of memory, representing a format specifiers of character. Unsigned character is percentile C or percentile HHU. And short type like short int, signed short int. So it represents capable of containing at least, this is a range, and occupies what, 2 bytes of memory. 16 bits represents 2 bytes of memory. It can be represented percentile hi or percentile hd. Here percentile h represents what, short type, hd, like a short integral type, like that. Unsigned short int, like short unsigned integer type contains at least 0 to 65,535 range. It occupies 16 bits, 2 bytes of memory, representing format specifier percentile hu. Another type called int, signed int, basic signed integral type, capable of containing at least, the size is minus 32,768 to 32,767 range. It occupies 16 bits, means 2 bytes of memory. It represented as format specifier for integral type is percentile I or percentile D, represents integral format specifier, int format specifier. Unsigned int. See, this is the range 0 to 65,535. It occupies 2 bytes of memory, 16 bits. Format specifier is percentile U. Percentile U represents what? Unsigned integral. Next, long int, signed long int. So it is long signed integer type, capable of containing the, at least this is the range. It occupies 32 bits, means 4 bytes of memory. Format specifier is what? Percentile li or percentile ld. Unsigned long int. This is the range. It occupies same 32 bits, representing format specifier percentile LU, represents unsigned. Percentile U means unsigned integral. Percentile LU means what? Unsigned long int type. Next, long int, signed long int. See, this is a capable of containing the range. These is specified in C99 version of the standards. It occupies what? 64 bits, 8 bytes of memory. Format specifier percentile LLI or percentile LLD, represents what? Long type. Unsigned long integral type. So this is a range. It occupies what? 64 bits, 8 bytes of memory. Percentile LLU represents what? Unsigned long. U represents unsigned. LL represents what? Long and long type. Next, float data type. The real floating point type, usually referred to as a single precision floating point type. Actual properties unspecified. So this is the range binary floating point format. It occupies 32 bits. See, these are all the various format specifiers. Generally, we go with what? Percentile f, small f. So this is our representation of format specifiers of what? Float type. Next, double occupies what? 64 bits. So this is a percentile LF, represents what? Double type. Long double, it occupies what? 80 bits, means 10 bytes of memory. It represents percentile L is capital, percentile LF, L is a capital letter. Here coming to double, percentile LF, L is a small, but in case of long double, L is capital, percentile LF. So in this session, we had discussed in detail about what is data types in C programming language, and also we discussed various data types. Especially we discussed about basic or primitive data types in C programming language, derived data types, and also enumeration data types, user defined data types, empty data type or valueless data types called wide data type. And also we discussed in detail about the basic data type, sizes, type name, keyword, and bits, size represented in bits, size represented in bytes. Also we discussed range and format specifier, how to represent and specifier about the particular data type in C programming language. We had discussed in detail. Okay, thank you for watching my videos. Thank you all.